Yes. Let's start with Albany here on the left side. The number one overall seed is South Carolina. They will easily advance. The 8-9 game goes North Carolina and Michigan State. I don't know about either one. I don't know about either one of these teams, but you know what? I trust North Carolina to get the job done. Oklahoma and Florida Gulf Coast. We're going with Oklahoma. Indiana and Fairfield. All of my doctors are Indiana fans, and they would not like me if I picked anybody else, so we're going to go with Indiana. Nebraska, who scared the heck out of Iowa in the Big Ten Women's Championship, will get 11th-seeded Texas A&M. We're going to go with Nebraska. 3rd-seeded Oregon State with Eastern Washington. Going to go with Oregon State. Picked all the high seeds so far. Ole Miss and Marquette, the 7-10 game. I think this is where the first upset will be scored. And I'm going with Marquette, and they will face Notre Dame in the next round. Now, on the Albany 2 side, let's go with Iowa. They'll play the winner of West Virginia and Princeton, and I think Princeton will score the upset, so we're going to go with Princeton. Colorado and Drake got all Buffaloes there. Kansas State with Ayoka Lee, their big-time center, will play Portland. We're going to go with Kansas State. Louisville and Middle Tennessee State, going with the Cardinals and staying with the ACC. The defending champion LSU and Rice will get Louisville in the next round. You got Creighton and UNLV, and just for giggles, we're going to go with UNLV to score the upset. UCLA and Cal Baptist will play at Pauley Pavilion. We're going with UCLA. Now, the first 2 rounds are hosted at the site of the higher seed. Another number 1 seed is Texas. They will beat Drexel, and they will face. I believe they'll face Alabama. I pushed the wrong button again. Sorry about that, folks. I believe they'll face Alabama. Utah will beat South Dakota State, and they will get Gonzaga, and that will be at the Kennel in Gonzaga. Tennessee Volunteers are back in the tournament. They will play the Wolfpack of North Carolina State. And then you got the 7-10 matchup of Iowa State and Maryland. I'm just going to pick it upset just because. We're going with Maryland, and they will play 2nd-seeded Stanford. Back upstairs we go. Top-seeded USC and Juju Watkins will play Michigan, I believe. Then you have Baylor that will play the winner of another play-in game. They will play Virginia Tech. Syracuse faces the winner of Auburn and Arizona. Going to go with the Qs, and they'll play at the Carrier Dome. And then 3rd-seeded Connecticut will play Syracuse in an old Big East matchup. Duke Blue Devils will then play Ohio State, who got rocked in the Big Ten tournament. So now we're going to go back to Albany 1. South and North Carolina going with the Gamecocks. Oklahoma, Indiana. We're going to go with Indiana to make the regional semifinals. Nebraska, Oregon State going with the Beavers, and they will get Notre Dame. And then it will be South Carolina taking on taking on Notre Dame. And then to win that game, I'm going with an upset. I'm going with Notre Dame. Now, I could be totally wrong in doing this, but we'll see how it goes. Iowa will win over Princeton, and they'll get Kansas State for the 3rd time this year. It's going to be a rough road for Iowa to get to the Final Four, but more of my picks go like this. Louisville will win. No, check that back. LSU will win, and they will play UCLA. Iowa will get the best of Kansas State, and they will play LSU in a rematch, and this time Caitlin Clark and Iowa will get them. So 2 of my Final 4 goes Notre Dame and Iowa. Now, to the Portland brackets. Texas and Alabama, we're going to go with Texas, and they will play Utah. And Tennessee, who holds the 4th seed, will go down against North Carolina State, and Stanford will host them. Texas and Utah 1 versus 5. Let's go with Texas, and they will play Stanford. And this is the part. This is the toughest, one of the toughest picks I've ever had to make. So we're going to go with Stanford. Tara Vandermeer always has something up her sleeve. USC and Michigan, got to go with Juju Watkins and USC. They will play Baylor in the regional. Syracuse and Connecticut, got to go with Paige Beckers in Connecticut, and they will face second-seeded Ohio State. And it will be USC that will take on Connecticut because Ohio State has some chinks in their armor after they got rolled by Maryland in the Big Ten tournament. And I'm gonna score an upset. Connecticut will get the best of USC. So we have our Final Four. It's Notre Dame and Stanford, Iowa and Connecticut. It will be a couple of great games on Friday night. You have a couple of twos in my bracket, Notre Dame and Stanford. Got to go with Tara Vandermeer and Stanford. Iowa and Connecticut will play about 4 overtimes, and each will have about 200 points, but I'm going with Caitlin Clark in Iowa. And finally, you have a championship game for the ages, the Stanford Cardinal and Tara Vandermeer and Lisa Bluter and Iowa. And I rolled with them at the top of the season. I'm going to roll with them at the end of the season. I believe Iowa will cut the Nets down to win the title.